Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Shawn Ray.
I'm in the house.
Sugar Man, this has been a hell of an
Yeah.
exciting week, bro. So,
Well, I mean, it depends on what angle you're looking at it from, Bob. I mean, the internet is a buzz with haters and lovers. There were some people out there that were saying we were spot on the money once again, as usual, as we're usually not very too far off the mark. And then there's others that said that we hurt a few feelings along the way.
well, unfortunately, they got the wrong two guys when it comes to the feeling police because that's not the business we're in. We're in the business of bodybuilding, as always. And we talk about subjects as they come up and as they become known to us. So we're here to clarify and put to bed, hopefully, all the events of this past week. And really what I want to do is, once again, we like to use these as teachable moments, Shawn, to our vast audience of athletes, pros, and otherwise out there.
Well, teachable moments come in a lot of different areas, man. One thing as a bodybuilder I learned very early on is not to take anything personal, right? I mean, it's a sport of opinion. It's like me hating you because you're Republican and I'm Democrat, or because, as Ronnie Coleman would say, Sally don't like apples, but Kitty likes bananas. Yeah, this is not the sport to be in if you have soft feelings and you want the feelings to be nurtured.
Well, and nor should it be. I mean, listen, you and I are huge sports fans. I can't even imagine. Just today, I was looking, scrolling down, seeing the usual stuff. Basketball's a hot topic right now because it's nearing the playoffs and all that for the ladies. And I don't watch ladies basketball, but I do know the name of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, right? Some of these names that we've been seeing lately. They get more stuff than any. Can you even imagine on any sports show, basketball, football, the NFL today, any of these things? Athletes taking such a burn to being told, well, you didn't do as good as you did in your last game, or listen, your production was down a little bit when it came to yards per average, or anything like that. Can you imagine them taking the stance like they do with bodybuilding?
Well, I mean, listen, when it comes down to commentating, if the athlete's going to be getting his feedback from commentators immediately after a show, after he's actually been served a dose of humble pie, it's going to be a long, long time out there. I mean, Stephen A. Smith and Charles Barkley, they're no shrinking violence when it comes down to telling people what they really think. And they're talking about multi-million-dollar players half the time.
Well, and we get paid to say what we think. Okay, we have a podcast, we have sponsors like Panada and Mutant and Celsius and Icon and Egg Whites International and American Male Wellness, bro.
Yeah.
Not just to name a
don't
few.
you don't you love it when they say, well, who are these two guys? Why are they talking? I mean, well, who are they talking? Everybody can talk, right? It's a free enterprise. We're all entitled to our opinion after we go to a concert, a
Sure.
movie. In this case, a bodybuilding show, which we both have over invested 40 years. Combined, it would be an 80-year career that we're talking about. That this is what we do. Not only do we listen to what the bodybuilders say, we watch sometimes what the promoters do. We
Sure.
watch what some of the judges do. We watch what some of the tanning companies do, and how much entry fees are. I mean, we analyze all aspects of the game.
Well, the one thing I don't want to do is get muddled. We don't even normally cover things like this, and for good reason. Okay, for those who wanted to know, we said that Matt's, had a small podcast. Listen, we have a small podcast. Okay, when it's in comparison to Nick's strength and Greg Doucette and desktop bodybuilding, we're not even close to their numbers. Okay, but
Yeah.
we don't try to be either. Okay, we have a very specific message that we send. We come from a very specific place. We don't get involved in the minutiae usually of this type of stuff, although we were drawn into this one, but we don't cover a lot of the things. Listen, I could have 5 times as many followers tomorrow, Shawn. If you wanted to come out and we put a headline tomorrow that says Shawn Ray gives you the cycle he was on when he was competing as a pro, and I'll guarantee everybody's listening, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, look, people Monday morning quarterback, everyone's show. There's not a show out there that somebody doesn't have an opinion on, good, bad, or otherwise. I mean, the good thing about this sport is we can get our information from wherever we choose. Just like you can watch CNN, Fox News, NPR. You have choices. You don't
Yep.
always have to agree with people, but having an open mind, listening to the content rather than emotion and feelings, you can learn a lot. Like you said, teachable moments come sometimes when you listen to the content and you take the the commentators out. I remember Money Mayweather, man. He wanted to go at Larry
Money.
Merchant in the ring. Larry Merchant, he didn't like the way Larry Merchant was
Yeah.
talking about him taking a pot shot on one of the fighters. And
Yeah.
Money Mayweather had an epic meltdown over a 50-year-old man that he wanted to fight. Of course, Larry Merchant's not a fighter.
No.
People have a tendency to get taken off the subject, and then they want to take it to the gutter or take it to a back alley. And I mean, this is bodybuilding. The guys are posing in bikini briefs, right? Don't take it so personal.
Yeah. Well,
I've been there. I've been the subject of ridicule in my bikini briefs because I didn't beat this guy, or because
right.
I posed to slow music, or because I had a mascara on my eyelashes. I mean, I've been ridiculed. I'm short, I'm narrow, all of that crap. But who cares,
Well,
right?
listen, the bottom line is we responded to this for a couple particular reasons. Because one of the questions that came out is, why did you two guys decide to pick this story up and report on it? And the answer is real simple. If Phil Clahar, and that's obviously who we're talking about here, had gone on Matt's show, I know your name, Matt, I got you this time, and you said you were dissatisfied with the call outs, that you thought you were disrespected, you thought you should have placed higher, right? You thought you were in the mix, you thought you were better than last year. If you said any of those things, me and Shawn would have absolutely not ever even commented on it or even picked up the story.
Yeah.
It's only because you prefaced it with the idea that there is wrongdoing, that there's conspiracy, and some conceited effort to get you out of the game. That's why we decided to address it. You addressed Tyler Mannion by name, our vice president of the company, the future of the company, and the head judge at your event. And you wanted to know, and I quote, because I actually wrote it down, make sure I got things right here, bro. I honestly wish somebody could explain why, end quote. That was a quote from him on Matt's show. I honestly wish somebody can explain why, what happened to him, what happened to him. And that's what we attempted to do. We explained why.
Yeah, I had no horse in this race. As a matter of fact, prior to this, I call it whatever an excuse when you come out and you say, they want to send me into retirement. I had sent him a DM congratulating him on his victory. I didn't know him from Adam. We
Right.
never met before. I never talked before. But when he did this show, I just randomly said, "Hey man, good job, congratulations." The next thing I hear is this conspiracy, which perked up my ears. I'm like, wait a minute, Tyler did what?
Right.
And then I think I heard his wife say that they got off the phone, they talked to Steve, and everything was great. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if he talked to Steve, why didn't he talk to Tyler? I mean, Tyler's not
Right.
accessible. Tyler was the guy that he was calling out. So I think when you hear this inflammatory soundbite, I'm retiring and they're forcing me out, and Tyler's the reason. Yeah, we're gonna perk up and go, what the hell? What did we miss? So we did our homework, and it sounds like they accepted Steve's explanation, which I'm really dying to hear,
Yeah, me too.
because I imagine that if a bodybuilder quits midway through a show and technically put themselves in last place, or at least tied for last place, there's really nothing to explain at that point because you quit. You got last because you quit. But if you were going to continue on with the show and the judges all scored you in last place, they owe you an explanation, which is reasonable. And I would
Sure.
imagine that Steve, knowing Steve the way I know, he would have told him why he had him in last place if that's where he had him. So why would Steve's explanation for him being last place be more valid than us agreeing with Steve,
Right.
that Phil would be in last place? Why are we the villains?
Well, the biggest problem I have with the entire thing, and again, I don't want to get muddled into this even more. We saw Phil's video. He wants to take it to a different level. He's disrespected. He doesn't
He took the high
appreciate.
road, Bob.
Not
He
even.
took the high road, though. He took the high road and said he's not going to get in the gutter with us. But then he called us clowns, and his wife chimed in. I mean,
Well,
like, which one is it?
well, the bottom line is this, Shawn. We didn't call anybody names. It wasn't our intent. And as for all those people asking about the athlete's rep position, which we're the only two that have served in this capacity, and as somebody that's been in this capacity for 20 years now, I can give you the very answer as to why we chose to address this. All right, for those saying, well, you should be backing up the athlete. What kind of an athlete's rep are you that you wouldn't, you would talk about this in a public forum? Well, number one, he brought it to a public forum. We responded in a public forum. Number
Right.
two, he could have called me. I don't know
100%.
what 562 athletes are doing at all times. I didn't know he was just pleased with his placing at either show. I don't follow every single person in every single division and what they're doing. But there's only one athlete's rep, so he could have easily picked up the phone and called me. Could have called Steve. Probably should have called Tyler since you seem to have a problem with him. But you didn't do that either. So we responded on a public forum. But our whole point was to lend clarity that there was absolutely no conspiracy, that you're not too old, that nobody's saying you're too old. We call him a Masters competitor, Shawn. You know what? Here's a tip. If
Yeah.
you don't want to be called a Masters competitor, you probably shouldn't compete in the Masters division.
Was he in the Masters Olympia?
He was in the Masters Olympia. I actually called him out on. I was in Romania. I called Phil in his third place placing, which, listen, the guy looked great. Again, we're not going to disparage him still. We're not going to stoop to that level. We gave him credit for looking great, for looking, like when he won Orlando. He thinks it was disrespectful that we said the only reason he won was because Hassan was off.
Well, if Hassan was on, he would have had a problem.
Well, Hassan was more on than Phil at the Olympia that they both qualified, and he placed, I don't know, 6 spots higher. So
I don't know
if
how
that
you
gives any
explain that.
clarity, but that's not even the point. We're only disputing the fact that you said that you think there was some concerted effort to run you out of the game, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And this is, again, my going back to the original premise, Shawn, the biggest problem I have as an athlete, and again, this is the teachable moment for everybody listening, okay? All you pros that are out there listening, that's our audience, okay? Your past is not considered when you step on that stage as a pro. And Shawn, I went around and around with our buddy Matt on his show just recently.
Yeah.
And I could not get him to truth to power that it doesn't make any difference what you did in the past. It only makes a difference when you step on stage. Isn't that exactly what we should be looking for from the judges?
True. I mean, I think it might favor the incumbent Mr. Olympia, but that is the exception, not the rule. I think everyone would assume going to a Mr. Olympia that the reigning Mr. Olympia, returning Mr. Olympia, will probably be in the first call out. That's almost a given. And we all understand that. But on these random shows, coming in as a past champion from a year ago,
Yeah.
it doesn't warrant a first call out, not to mention these judges have had an opportunity to see you in prejudging independently by yourself. So it's hard to use the line that I was overlooked because you're up there by yourself. You're almost 6 feet tall. Look, at the end of the day, I think what grown men competing in bodybuilding, you need to step away for a good 48 to 72 hours, get some calories in you, look at some video, look at some pictures. Don't run to the internet. Don't listen, if I had $1 for every family member that said I should have been Mr. Olympia the night of the Mr. Olympia, I'd have a bucket load of money over here to share with all my friends. Step away, get your emotions out of it. The judges at the show, they're not going to round up their email addresses and give them to you and start talking about what happened 10 minutes ago on stage. The guy, from all accounts, I thought was a cool guy, but now it's turned into I'm an ex-boxer and I saw what Chad's son did, and you're not a fighter. No, I'm not a fighter. I've been in one fight in my life. I've never pretended to be a tough guy. I have an opinion. I'm an opinionated. I'm also a pundit. I'm also an analyst. I do have checks
Right.
that are for commentary on bodybuilding for over the past 22 years in retirement and for 14 years while I was an active pro. My job is not to go out and tear down bodybuilders, but I will tell you this. Analyzing the sport of bodybuilding is what you and I have done very well. That's why we're in the places that we are. If this guy thought for 2 seconds that we wanted to tear into him because we had nothing else to do on a Sunday afternoon, he's wrong. But don't put yourself in a place where you're going to get criticized for your immature behavior. And when we agree that the behavior is immature, get mad at us for calling you out. I mean, he wants this whole thing to go away, but he wants to go out calling us names. I'm not sure what we did wrong here, except that we agreed with the judges.
And listen, at the end of the day, those are the only opinions that matter. It doesn't matter if pros came up to you after. It doesn't matter whether you had fans coming up to you. It doesn't matter whether your social media was very favorable. Boy, that's odd, right? To you and your cause. The only opinions that mattered were the 7 people down in the front who, like you said, they got a first look at you. You came out. My job is to ensure that you were treated with the same respect that every other athlete was treated with. Were you way over on the end and a light that was out on the stage? Right? Did you not get a chance to hit your poses? Did they exclude you out of the pose down? I mean, these are things that I would be concerned with knowing to say, well, wait a minute, that wasn't right. Or why didn't he get his individual routine? Or what do you mean he wasn't compared at all? Like, those are things that would be brought to my attention as a rep, as somebody who looks out for these athletes to go, wait a minute, that's not fair. You were called out. You got called out in numerical order, which they do in any show, which I assume would be, Clahar being a C, he would be in the first or second group of guys, right? They looked at you. What they didn't consider, nor should they, is what you did last year, what you looked like at the Olympia, how many shows you've won in the past, how you turned pro, if you're a nice guy, what you've done for the sport. No judge should be considering any of that, Shawn. Why would they consider anything except what they're looking at in front of them? Why?
And look, at the end of the day, if you quit and you don't come back to the finals, they really shouldn't even owe you an explanation. You quit.
Right.
If you quit at anything, you're tied for last. So I think it's a moot point. I actually didn't know at the time of the conversation that he actually quit midstream. But when you
Yeah.
quit, you're right now the 15 minutes of fame are up. You got more publicity than the actual winner. We're talking about someone that didn't finish a contest. Are you a quitter? I mean, that's what happens when you quit. You're a quitter. So you want redemption? You go back to the drawing board, get back on the stage, put yourself through the contest, go all the way through the contest, and then you reanalyze what happens at that point. But you're absolutely right. If they were forcing me out, my first call would be to the athlete's rep if no one's answering the phone, because that's what the rep's supposed to do. If the call didn't come to you, I don't know how they would have thought that you were supposed to be calling them. Us speaking on this scenario, it's one of many scenarios, but it's really strange because of the messenger. It's unbecoming of his character. He would have been the last guy at his age that I would have thought
Yeah.
quit a contest and then blame the federation and then blame the head judge and then talk to a different judge and then be okay with his response, but still be mad at the analyst that agreed with the judge's
Right.
opinions. I didn't set out to make fun of this guy, neither did you, but it's laughable. It all becomes very laughable when you start putting all the pieces together because there's more pieces to it. And then when you bring your extended family into it, then you start talking about a street fight, and then you start talking about whose physique is better. I mean, I heard one thing that's something like, I wouldn't be able to compete in today's era. Okay, well,
Yeah.
once I heard that, I'm done with the conversation. It's ludicrous. I'm in the Hall of Fame, and he couldn't make the top 10 of this. What show is this? The Texas show or Tampa
Yeah.
show
I
or
mean, it's irrelevant. You're right.
yeah,
It digressed
it fell
into
apart.
a tough guy conversation or
I
let's
don't want
compare
any part of
physiques
that.
or get. Listen, this is not the
Phil,
words
I
of
don't. Phil,
a.
I don't want to fight you because I agreed with the judges. Sorry, I quit.
Listen,
I'm
I don't
backing
even.
down, Bob. Before I get approached, I'm backing down. Phil, you're the better boxer. Phil, you're stronger, and at present, you're the better bodybuilder. I'm
I,
actually going to apologize if I hurt your feelings because I should have been a little bit more aware that you probably were coming from a place of hurt feelings, and your wife is right. We should have factored that into our analysis, and I'm sorry that we didn't.
well, that's pretty sad testament, but it does bring us to our subject this week: is are these athletes too sensitive these days? Has social media given them a cocoon of yes men, of fans, of you got screwed and you should have won, and maybe they just don't like you. Is Phil a victim of the social media movement that we've seen over the last 5 years in particular, as opposed to because you know what we didn't have back then? We didn't have social media.
No, we
We
had
had
no
actual
platform.
experts like Peter McGuff and Sean Perrine and Greg Merritt and all the writers at the other magazines um, that covered these shows.
Yeah.
And they covered the top five. I mean, other than the Olympia, they might go to 10. They don't even mention the people outside the top five. This has gotten way more attention than it should have been gotten. We've never talked about a guy in last place as much. And the only reason, again, is because you're crying conspiracy. But make no mistake about it, Shawn, are the people today, the competitors today, are they in a I don't know, different position, I guess, than we were in because of social media?
I think this would be Exhibit A. 5 years from now, we can look back at how this fell apart and use this as a classic example of stay away from social media 48 hours to 72 hours after the show. Because when you run to social media, this is what happens. And then you get all this confusion, and we're grown men. I mean, we're going to see each other cross paths if we're at these shows. I mean, it's not disrespectful to agree with a judge's opinion. It's not disrespectful to laugh at how silly the whole thing. This whole thing is silly. It's laughable, and I think, you know, maybe months removed or even years removed, you look back at this thing and you go, "This is exactly what you don't want to do when you lose a contest, or when you're losing a contest," because he hadn't lost the show at the time. When he made up his mind that he wasn't coming back for the finals, it was pizza and beer. It was over. He made a conscious decision. The conspiracy theory is out the door. But when you come back and the show's over and the guys complete the show and then you belittle the head judge and you talk about being muscled out, it sounds very nefarious. And I'm not here to defend the IFBB Pro League. I don't get a check from them. Tyler Mannion and I don't sit here and talk on the phone. I didn't have a conversation with Steve Weinberger, but I've been around the world and I've been to enough shows to know that if an athlete is doing what Phil just did, it's because his feelings are hurt. His wife was right. We need to be more sensitive to his feelings. The problem with that is we're not friends. We don't talk on the phone. We don't know where
Right.
his headspace. We only were reacting to his reaction, and we weren't taking his feelings into consideration because he wasn't crying. He was pointing blame, and so all that stuff was lost in translation. And I think what they saw was that we were laughing at Phil. I found the whole situation laughable. This is his career. He took it seriously. But you know where it fell apart was when you quit and then you point fingers. That's kind of where you lost me.
Yeah, and I'm right with you on that. Listen, we weren't laughing at him. We were laughing at the situation and how ludicrous it would be for these judges to conspire or get together. Or, again, nobody's ever answered the question still. Why would they want you out of the league? And yes,
Yeah.
we do find that funny because on its merits, it falls so flat that they would consider anything except you standing in front of them. And you just didn't agree with their assessment, but they're the judges. But
Yeah.
I do like to back ourselves up, and again, being two historians on here, does the IFBB have a problem with older clients, right? With older competitors, whatever you want to call them, right? Do they have a problem? Well, history would dictate that that's not the case. If you go back into somewhat of the old days, Shawn, 40-something was old, all right? When guys like yourself were turning pro and Gasperi and Shane Demora at 20, 21, 22 years old, a guy in their 40s was considered old back then. But I remember a couple of guys back then, like Albert Beckles, winning numerous shows in his 40s. Chris Dickerson, who was the oldest Mr. Olympia, he was what, 43 or 44,
42.
if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, Shawn.
Yep.
Vince Taylor, who competed
Robbie
well into his
Robinson.
40s. Sergio Oliva, who came back in his 40s and placed a very respectable 8th place in the Olympia. Okay? He was still
Yeah.
top 10. That was in what, 84?
Yeah.
80 something, right? So the famous.
Tony Pearson, Robbie Robinson. We had a lot of elder statesmen. I mean, if the Federation didn't have a reverence for the athletes that stick around and that are older, why then would they resurrect the Masters Olympia, Jake Wood and
Right.
company, to give Hidetada another bite at the apple? Because that ship sailed for Hidetada. His career was dead in the water. And
It
when
gave
they
a bite at the
returned,
apple for Phil Clahar, who took third.
that's another one. So to go over there at that age and have an opportunity to compete against elder, more mature, 40-plus athletes is not a slap in the face. It's an opportunity, and
But
they're
in a
bringing it back next
but
year.
hang
Or
on, Shawn. In a sport that we look at physiques, in a sport that the judge's job is to assess a physique, why would they care how old anybody is?
100%, age shouldn't have anything to do with it. They don't
And
ask your
again,
age.
these examples that we give are proof positive of that. So I don't think there's any conspiracy towards the Federation for that. Would Tyler Mannion have any issue or even know how old somebody is on stage? Other than, yes, of course he would know you were a Masters competitor. I know you kind of take offense to that, Phil, but when you compete in the Masters Olympia, it kind of makes you a Masters competitor.
Not to mention you're 40-plus. You're automatically a Masters
50.
competitor. I mean, 50-plus. Dexter was a Master competitor competing in
Yep.
open shows. But guess what? What year was it that he won the Masters Olympia? Remember we had that?
And went on to win shows after that in the Open.
That was in like 2011.
And then he went on to win New York, Tampa. Right, he was rounding out his resume as he wanted to add these titles to his impressive resume.
it's just, it wasn't a slap in his face by calling him a master. His wife made it sound like that was like, and Bob, he's not a master. Yeah, he is a master, and it's a badge of honor. We're not taking away his accomplishments, but you know what? This is a sport of inclusion. We need guys like Phil that have a platform to take their frustration out on in the weights and on the stage.
Sure.
To have it ruined because of a bad experience one day when he missed his peak and he thought he deserved better because his friends in social media told him so does not mean you retire. I'm more frustrated that the guy said that's the reason you're quitting, because you had a bad showing or because you thought you were better than you were. Why don't you try, if you fell out of the top, fight your way back into the top. Shut those people up.
Well,
We are not the enemy for agreeing with the results.
no, not at all. But what can be done, Shawn? I mean, listen, we're in a time and a place. It's 2024. Social media is here to stay, if not get worse as it goes. Are the athletes are not doing themselves a service by surrounding themselves with 5,000 of their closest friends? But is there anything that can be done? I mean, do they shield themselves away from such things?
Yeah.
Are we just going to see more examples of this going? This
We're
is
gonna
not
see.
unique, by the way.
We're gonna see more. Phil's not the first to run to the internet and basically tell the world that he's done because he's sour grapes. His real life experience played out in front of everyone. We're not the only ones that watched that and went, "Why is he retiring?" And then we dug deeper into why he's retiring. Then we realized that he quit. I
Bro,
mean,
I
what
was
the hell?
I was just listening the other day where somebody brought up, whether it was in that interview or another one, I can't keep them all straight now, about followers, about how they like to, put the guys with the most followers up there because that means money for the federation in some wacky,
Wow.
weird way.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, so you think when those judges are sitting down there and you guys come rolling out on there, that what, they're on their phone seeing how many followers you got? Or
Yeah.
listen, wasn't it Big Ramy? Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is only a couple of years ago. Didn't Big Ramy go from first to fifth
Yeah, he did in the
in the
Olympia.
Olympia? Right?
Yeah. What did he do? He came back. He came back. I think he keeps competing. The problem is he didn't retire because of that. I
But I
mean,
mean,
go
there
ahead.
was no conspiracy to put it to take, right? The guy was the champ, right?
Yeah,
Two-time
it's a good
Olympia
example.
champion with more followers than probably anybody on there. Again, very likable guy, very popular guy, especially in his neck of the woods. This guy's God in Egypt, okay?
Yeah.
Bottom line they saw what they saw and they placed him accordingly. It didn't matter. The followers thing is so ludicrous for the people like you and I who know these judges, who know what they're looking at. They
Well,
don't take any other thing into consideration other than your physique.
here's the thing, and I hate to say back in the day, but I'm sure Phil can relate. Back in the day, before you had a phone that you can run to in your private time and talk to all of your followers because they're sympathizers, people had a thing called a diary. You had
Yeah,
to write it down in your diary that no one in the world would see but you.
sure.
Um, if you wanted to write about a grievance, you had to write to the editor of the publication that ran 2 or 3 months behind.
Yeah, right.
So after the Olympia would happen in September, I'd find out what the writers really thought right around the holidays, around
Yeah,
Christmas.
December, right. Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah, sometimes it wasn't very good reviews, and then I got all fired up all over again because I put that in the past. But now it's real time. And so these phone apps and these Instagram and these followers, you can communicate even live. I remember Phil Heath after the Olympia, he just won the Olympia, ran to his cell phone,
Yep.
gets on a live and goes on the offensive with Louis Marco,
Oh,
who
yeah.
Louis Marco, I think at the time was
I do
calling him,
remember that. Yeah.
he was talking about the bubble gut. And Phil Heath won the show and he $100,000 richer. And the first thing he wanted to do was run to the
Right.
Instagram. He wanted to run to the gram and tell this one YouTuber, Instagrammer with a big mouth, how I won and I have the check and nana nana nana. And I'm thinking that's what you were thinking in your moment of victory with the Sandow Trophy, $100,000 check. You're thinking of the one guy that called you a name.
Well,
So yeah, I think
interestingly, Phil was pretty much, I mean, Jay caught a little at the end, but Phil was really the first Olympian to have to deal 100% with social media,
right.
without question. So, yeah, listen, you just summed it right up. And maybe that tells us exactly the answer that we're looking for here, Shawn, with social media being a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not so sure it's a good thing in most instances because it gives these guys a sense of false security. And when I say guys, girls, okay, we're talking about the sport in general. I see it in all divisions. You're getting a sense of false security because you, again, and then listen, if somebody doesn't agree, what do? You ban them, block
Hmm.
them, man. I don't need that
Yeah,
negativity. No, you do need
negative.
the negativity. This is the problem: is you're not getting any negativity. And again, these are from not your fans, not the idiots out there, right? Not the clowns, not any experts.
Yeah,
Experts are
I've
giving you their 2 cents, and you deem it as negative. We deem
yeah.
it as you wanted a review, right? You wanted the truth.
Yeah, I don't take any offense when people say we don't know what we're talking about. I'm not sure about Phil, but I think he said that his identity was not wrapped in cloth in bodybuilding.
Yeah,
Um,
you said he owes his identity to the world of bodybuilding. He
yeah,
disagrees.
so I'm not sure why he didn't go to the Texas Tribune to air his grievance. Why did he go to a bodybuilding podcast and talk to all the bodybuilders that follow him and air his grievances? I mean, I've done a lot more than just bodybuilding, but I'm known as a bodybuilder. His wife was very clear. He's not a masters competitor. He's an open professional bodybuilder. Okay, so I
Okay,
wasn't I wasn't too far off the mark that this guy's identity is wrapped around bodybuilding. He might have been a boxer, but he's known as a bodybuilder because he just got done competing, didn't he?
he did.
So we don't know him as a boxer. We know him as a body. He didn't go on a boxing website or a chat forum. He went on a bodybuilding podcast to talk about the bodybuilding contest. I don't want to play semantics.
It's
I'm not the enemy, Phil. And at the end of the day, you're one of many. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've caught the same flack that you did. What I didn't do was go try to rally the troops and then criticize my critics. There's critics everywhere. You can't go after the critics. We're all entitled to our opinion, no matter what you might think of the delivery. This goes kind of to the wife about the feelings. The message is the same. If you quit, you're last. And now, if you want redemption, go do it again. But I don't think you should retire because you feel like you're being forced out. If you feel like you're being forced out, prove them wrong. Go
right.
stay and fight. Stay and fight. We all have an opportunity to redeem ourselves in front of a whole new panel of judges, compete in an entirely different show. Hell, you can go to another country and compete for redemption. But if you
Let me
feel
ask
like
you
that,
something.
it,
Let me ask you something, Shawn. Would you have any issue if I said, Shawn, you owe your whole identity to the world of bodybuilding? Would you take offense to that?
I'm in the Hall of Fame. I started when I was 17 years old.
Right.
I mean, I know more about bodybuilding than Phil has in his whole career. I mean, I knew Joe
Right.
Weider. I worked for the guy. I knew Larry Scott and Sergio Oliva and Phil Heath and Brandon Carey. I mean, these aren't people that are novel people. These are my friends that I've grown up with my entire life.
Right.
It's all I know. I'm not offended if someone says I owe my identity. He may be more than just a bodybuilder, but at the moment, we're talking bodybuilding. We saw this news and information on a bodybuilding podcast. You're talking about bodybuilding judges, and then your rebuttal is to two former retired bodybuilders. So this is a bodybuilding conversation. I'm sure that you may be a husband, a father, and an uncle, a son. There's a lot of things that you may be, but
Of
right now
course.
we're talking about bodybuilding. So that's not a being a masters is not a slap in the face. Having your identity as a bodybuilder is not. We're talking bodybuilding, so this is the identification that we are talking. It's semantics. I mean, I don't know why we're going all over the place with this conversation. We're talking about a guy that quit in a contest.
Yeah.
It
Well,
happens.
listen, for what it's worth, Phil, and if you're watching, I'm sure you will, or you'll get these clips sent to you. We have no personal beef with you.
I
Okay. We
don't.
never did. Again, we were friendly before. Again, I know we don't break bread and we don't, we're not friends like that, but we've all been friendly to each other. You asked, you wanted to know if somebody could point out to you why, and we explained why. And I thought we were very decent about it. Again, I didn't think we took any cheap shots at you.
It's one contest. A lot of people have missed their peak in a show. You missed your peak and you got
I,
served up some humble pie.
I
You can
didn't.
say
I
you're
didn't win
finished.
every show. Did you?
No. But at
No.
the end of the day, look, he's the one that said he's finished. He's the one that said he quits, he
Oh, well,
retired.
listen.
We didn't
Be
say it.
finished, or be finished in the open, or just compete in Masters shows. Which, for some odd reason, you don't want anybody to think you're a Masters guy. But listen, the bottom line is we're not your enemy, buddy.
No.
Okay. Bottom line is, learn to laugh at yourself a little bit. Don't take anything that seriously.
Jesus.
Okay. Nobody got killed here or anything like that. This isn't
If
life
anybody
changing.
should be pissed, it's De La Rosa because we're not talking about him, and he won the
But
show.
But I will give you some expert advices here on behalf of both of us. Learn to get a little thicker skin. Okay, be a professional. Conduct yourself like a professional. All right. Again, learn to take some constructive criticism when somebody's offering it. And I think you and I have more than earned our way to giving our opinions, much more than many other people in this industry that are giving their advices and their opinions out there.
Sure.
But the bottom line, bro, is we came up through this game. Okay, we came up in a much tougher era of magazine coverage and again, real experts, real experts giving you their opinions. And let me tell you, they weren't always great, bro. You know, when those opinions came out, like you said, 2-3 months down the road, and the magazine comes out, and it's not exactly flattering, but you know what? They were usually pretty truthful about it. And you just had to learn, like every other, pro, and whether you're in a sport, football, baseball, bodybuilding, it doesn't really make any difference. That's part of the game, is taking critique and taking criticism. There's shows on ESPN all day long.
They laugh at the performance of a professional multi-million-dollar player, and they're making fun of him. It
exactly
happens.
right. At the end of the day, it really doesn't make anything different. But listen, we wish you the best. Okay, I hope you don't quit, because honestly, like we said the other day, listen, you're a hell of an athlete, especially at 50. Don't take offense to that. Wear it as a badge of honor, and continue to compete in the Masters division if that's what you so choose to do. That's that, Shawn. We got a few minutes left. In recent bodybuilding news, I can't put my finger on this guy. Okay, I'm talking about Rubio Mascara, i.e., AKA Nextzilla, right?
Yeah.
The guy's a talent. He's a freak. We've talked about him. I've heard he's going in Italy. Then I heard he wasn't going in Italy. I heard he's going in the UK show. Then I just heard he's not going in the UK show. He's going to go in some other show. So, bro, I've lost track. Like, what's going on with this guy?
Well, I think no matter what you do, you have to write in and get accepted, correct? You have to sign a contract, or you have to let the promoter know.
Sure.
So I think what's happening is the internet's running wild. People want to see him. People hope to see him. And he's not having anything to do with it, because if it was something he wanted to do, we'd hear it from him. He's got his own social media. He has the ability to write and contact the promoter, and the promoter hasn't said anything about it. So right now, it's just the fans running wild on social media. I'm not going to hold this kid responsible for rumors, because he's not the source. He hasn't said anything. So I'm not going to, I can't hold him responsible. I think people want to see him. I think it's a good opportunity for him to jump out there and continue. I think it's his rookie season, correct?
Yeah.
He's got nothing to lose. He fared okay in Dubai. I think he probably would have fared better
Bro, we
here.
just saw him in Dubai. He was in shape. I mean, he could have been a little leaner, obviously, but he was in shape. I mean, he didn't. It's not like he got buried. He was competitive, right? But why would you not hit another show or two along the way, trying to get yourself to the O?
Yeah, it has, again. We can't chart out the plans of a rookie professional, but I know that we have not heard him say it. So if it didn't come from him, if Nextzilla didn't say anything, it's just it's noise, and it's people want to see that freaky guy. They want to see him over there.
Well, one guy that did chart his path and put it out there many months ago, which I applaud, is Hunter Labrada, who said, "I'm going to Italy. I'm going to compete there. If anybody wants to come on down. That's where I'll be." And I like that because, listen, the promoters have a hard enough time, folks. We don't sell tickets like football or baseball. Okay, any advantage that you can get to the promoter to lend your name, that you will be there. Okay, if there's any fans of bodybuilding or yours in particular, at least they have the opportunity to know that you're coming. So I applaud Hunter Labrada. And right now, at least on paper, it looks to be a good decision, because the only other name I've seen on there that I even recognize is Andre Presti from Italy, okay, who's a good bodybuilder. Actually, I think he was in Orlando this past year or the year before. Might have been both years. Did reasonably well because he's a good bodybuilder. He's not great. That's no disrespect to him, but that's literally the only competition I see for Hunter Labrada, who looks like a ton of bricks. Looks like he put on about 15 pounds of muscle this year.
Yeah, I talked to his dad. He's really pleased with the way Hunter's looking. And look, Hunter made a strategic decision. This is not a last-minute trip for him. He didn't buy a ticket yesterday to fly to Italy. Okay? This was always on his radar. He made his mind up early. He told people early that he wasn't doing Texas. He's already been there and he's done that. So anybody that wanted to crack at Hunter Labrada could have signed up for that same show. The fact that no one's there of note,
Yeah.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault. So if he goes there and he walks off with an easy paycheck, we don't blame Hunter. He's doing the business. He's going out there. They're spending a week out there. I talked to his dad, doing some voice messages. The whole family's going out to Italy. It's not a bad
Oh,
gig.
great. Yeah.
You go out there, you get a first place check. You know, Hunter's a father too,
Yeah.
and his dad actually competed in Italy, Rimini, Italy,
That's
back
right.
in 1989. His dad placed second place in the Olympia. It's a good strategy for Hunter. That look, if someone wants to meet me in Italy and try to take this away, come get it. Otherwise, I'm going to go get my paycheck. I'm going to get my title, and then I'll come back and I'll see you guys at the Olympia. I don't know that it's going to be a very good measurement of progress for him. We could have saw that challenge against Andrew Jack at the
Yeah.
Texas Pro, but he probably chose wisely because number one, he's going to make more money if he wins. He'll have another title to go along with the Tampa Pro title that he won. Um, we can't fault this guy. Somebody's got to win. So if you got to fly across the country to go do it and run the risk, it's a
Yeah.
gamble. Um, we got to wait till the outcome. And then if he gets the qualification for the Olympia, then for him, it was a very good strategy.
Yeah, well, best of luck to Hunter, Andre. Again, I don't really recognize any of the other names. I hope it's a good show for the league and for the promoters. The bottom line is, yeah, I think we'll see Hunter back on the Olympia stage where he belongs. Hopefully, he can learn a little bit more. He's a thinking man's bodybuilder, and he's got to. What he really has to do is use this as his own teachable moment when it comes to contest prep, because the only thing that's been a problem for him is he tends to come out holding a little bit of water. And then he sweats it off as he goes. The problem is at the Olympia level, Shawn, as you're well aware, is you do not have a whole lot of time there to impress the judges or to play catch up. We've seen it done a handful of times. We saw Gustavo go from 8th to 3rd some years back, but they are few and far between when it comes to making up time against the best bodybuilders in the world. Hard to get to round 2 and make up any real ground.
Well, this is good for Hunter because he's going to have to suck it up. Right now, he's on the process of dehydrating and depletion, sucking it up, going through all the mandatory poses, having a contest under his belt. Presuming that he wins, he'll come back. He'll have 5 weeks to run
Yeah.
into Las Vegas and continue to dry out. I don't think he's peaking in Italy, but
Yeah.
other guys are sitting at home. This is I think a missed opportunity for Samson. I thought Samson should go over there and get that check. I guarantee you, he looks every bit ready for the Olympia today, and would have made that contest a lot more interesting for the promoter.
Yeah. That's
But for Hunter, he's pulling a Reagan Grimes. You know, Reagan Grimes went all the way over to
yeah.
Romania to get his Olympia qualification. So these qualifiers are there for a reason, and for some bodybuilders, they are doing the business of bodybuilding by strategizing the way that Hunter's doing right now, presuming he wins.
Well, speaking of the business of bodybuilding, Shawn, before I let you get out of here, I know you're gearing up for a flight.
Yes.
You are going back overseas, my friend, correct?
Yes, I'm headed to Dubai, the Beano's Classic out there for the first time. I think this is the second year they had it.
Yeah.
I'll be out there with Kai Green and Big Mike O'Hearn and Dexter the Blade Jackson, and some other guys are going to be out there doing the business for a 3-day expo. In the hot, it was 100. It's supposed to be 105 degrees every day. I was just there a month ago.
Yeah, we were there in the dead of summer, but yeah, that's a big expo. There'll be a lot of pros, a lot of superstars out there. And in just a few weeks, bro, when we get back, we'll hit a show on your return. But you and I will be actually en route to Italy, where we'll be visiting with Rudy Panada, Eduardo, the whole gang over at Panada in
Lee Haney's
Apiro,
gonna join
Italy.
us.
And I've actually got a mini trip in between. I got to go to Turkey for some business that we have out there. So maybe I
That's
should
where
get the hair done while I'm there, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say in Turkey, the hair transplant capital of the world. Nice. It's been a couple extra days there. You got to
Bro,
shave it off first.
you should come with us, bro. Get that flat top back again you used to have.
I'm past the point of no return, but when they shave your head, that's gonna be great. Take a picture.
Yeah, listen, I think I'm hanging in there pretty good still. Still got the Elvis,
You are.
John Travolta thing going. That's up.
You
Not
got the
bad for
doo-wop look.
And by the way, Shawn, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize that you are still older than I am, 59 years old. Your birthday coming up this week. Happy birthday, sugar.
Yeah, man. It feels like yesterday that I was 18, 19 years old posing down with you in Atlanta, Georgia, where you're basically kind of you're close to that area, at the Teen National Championships, man.
Yeah, and
1985. Me, you.
speaking of which, talk about politics. That was bullshit, man. Okay, so I got a big problem right now. I got to go to the Jim Mannion for this one. Okay, so
Yeah, he was there.
I still want an explanation.
He handed out the award. It was me, you, Chris failed. Wasn't there one other guy? I was
Um,
I think back then it was just light, middle, and heavyweight
if
for the
that, yeah.
teenagers. Yeah,
So,
I
if
think it was
that,
that.
but
But yeah, that was a good time. So I actually returned here to California on my birthday, and it's pretty much just another day. And again, I'll probably spend it riding my bike at the beach after that, 15-hour flight, trying to burn off some calories so I can have a big fat steak dinner.
I was going to say that your 4 favorite words and enjoy it, bro. All you can eat.
And then it's gonna be a sprint, man. It'll be 5 weeks to the Mr. Olympia, Las Vegas, and I'm counting that down because this will be my 36th or 37th time at the Olympia in a row,
Well, listen,
consecutive.
Sigurd, we'll catch up with you on the rebound, of course. But in the meanwhile, an early happy birthday, bro. Safe
Thank you.
travels, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. Mahalo.